Now the engine and gearbox are in, there's a tried and tested order of which you need to do the next few jobs. Next one is going to be place this rear engine mount bracket on. So you can see the mount is already on the rear subframe there, but there's a metal bracket which goes down to that, so you need to put that on first. Then I'll go underneath the car, and you see even further down there these two gear selectors. So they go into the gearbox with that thing affectionately known as the bitch pin. And then we'll come around here, place the exhaust manifold on, connect the exhaust, and then I will place things like the drive shafts in and do all the suspension up. Then when I've got the drive shafts in, then I'm making this sound quick and it's not going to be that quick, but then I'm going to fill the engine with oil and the gearbox full of transmission fluid, and then attach all of the heater hoses, then the wiring, then the fuel, then the air filter, and then I'm going to start it. So that's quite a long list of jobs to do, but let's see how far I can get through it. This is the bracket in question. Again, it's from Hasport, and these two go, can't quite see it, I'll show you when I'm underneath, to the side of the transmission. This one here goes to that eyelet you can just see on the end of the gearbox, and then this bolt at the back goes over the mount itself. So what I'm going to do is just from above undo all these and just place it in. A bit awkward, but the first thing you need to do is kind of walk it into place. This is not held on by anything other than it's tight in there, but you can rock the engine back and forth, get it over the rear mount, and you can see it's in place almost where the gearbox is, and then you just need to place it in here over the gearbox. So first thing I'm probably going to do is just push it down a bit, probably a couple of whacks on top of here with a hammer or rubber mallet, and get this more in position, and then I'm going to put the bolt on the back. Okay, so we're almost in position now on the front one. I'll go for the front one because I've the bolt holes lining up, and then I'll probably place the bolts into the side of the transmission, and then I'll try and get the rear one in. So the space is quite tight for this. You can see I've just put it in a little bit, got it threading up, and then as you push the bolt through, you can tighten up more. Now that's in there, but this can still move. My next priority will be to get these two bolts in here. So there's a short one and a longer one. The longer one's at the bottom. I'll see if I can find a more suitable box. I'm obviously spacing these out with these washers. So this is obviously loose. You can just place it in position, get the bolt holes to line up, which they do now. And I think both of these should probably be the same length bolt, but looking at the state of the threads in here, let's show you. Threads in here. Yeah, basically the threads aren't looking too great, at least the first few, so someone's obviously wiped them out at some point, doesn't matter. It threads in nicely after that, and then what I'll do is I'll just thread them up by hand like that, and won't go the whole way in, so we've still got a bit of movement, and then I'll go back up and see if I can get this this mount up here to line up, and you can use the whole engine. You can see you can really rock that around, so I'll be able to slot this long bolt in. That's nice and easy. That's the whole way through now. So just place the nuts and the washer on the back, and then tighten them all up, and then all 19s and 17s into the transmission. The one at the front here, and then the one at the back. Almost forgot to mention the transmission brace. These are all 12s and 17s. You see there's different lengths. That's a short one, that's a longer one, that's a short one, and then these 17s are all, although there's only two of them, but it's both the same length. And what I'm going to do just quickly put a bit of copper slip on each of them, place them in ready, and then just whack it up in. This is without the transmission brace, and then I'll show you when it's in. The shortest one of all of these bolts is actually going in the front here, like that. So just make sure you do that, but you can see how much metal it has to pass through, so that's the shortest one. And then you've got one around here, it's a bit longer still, and these ones are only that one. So, but you know, just get everything threaded up and nice. Don't just do up one and then hope for the best. Just make it so the whole thing's loose now, and then once you've got a good number of threads on all of them, I would do up the large bolts first, these two 17s, and then do up the 12s afterwards. Two shifters, so this is the one that goes with the bitch pin, and this is the one that goes with 12mm. And then if you look here, there's the one with the aforementioned pin, and there's the one which gets this 12mm in there. That's why I've left it in there. So you can just undo that, place them up, and then we'll tap that pin in. And I'll show you, it's an easy way, like so. Push that in place. Then you have this little washer with 12mm. You can just place that up there, like that. And then obviously do that. And then you've got this, which is the other shifter rod. Place that in here, and then you've got to line it up. Okay, and then you get this little pin. So it's kind of usually got two ways around it. One's looks like it's bitten in more, so that side goes in here. So first of all, check you're nice and lined up, which you are. Place that in there, like so, and then we'll get a punch and we'll just punch that up. But the important thing to say about it is that you need to make sure you've got a punch of the right size. This punch is obviously a bit small. This punch is the right size. So you want to try and get one which is the right size. If you have one way too small, it'll go into the centre of here and start flaring out, and then you'll really have problems. So what I tend to do is just tap it in a couple of times with the lump hammer, and then drive it the whole way home with the punch. Lump hammer, like so, and just tappy tappy. So we're quite a long way home there, and then I'll just get the actual driver and just drive that home. The whole way home, we've got this little clip with an indent in it, and that indent goes over here, and you can just snap that in place. Probably a lot of people by now have lost this, but you may as well. Can I do it one-handed? What do you think? Yeah. So that's nearly in place. That's there. And then just don't forget this seal. Make sure the little drip holes there, so that just lets anything trapped out. And then just move that over with your fingers over this seal. I think I'm gonna have to do that with 2 hands. Yeah, 2 hands. One place. It's over there. Holes at the bottom. That's up tight. Done. Right. Then we want to put the exhaust manifold on. Take the dipstick out. Place it somewhere. I'm going to wipe it off again anyway. So, and then get the exhaust manifold on. Easiest way is if you place it underneath the car and then grab it from there. You can stick it on these pegs, and then just make sure that your lambda is in a nice place, because make sure it's not snagged on anything. That's just rest in place. Got these nuts. These are actually 13mm serrated. You can get a couple, maybe one on each side to begin with. So here we are. This is the Lambda Sensor. I'm going to just pop that up here somewhere. The Lambda Sensor at back which is post cat, even though this is 91, so in the UK we don't need to run a cat, which I don't. So this is just actually for the sensor that displays the in the AEM gauge, and this is just for the actual engine operation. And then you've got this, which is the donut. I'm obviously going to reuse. One nice thing about the Skunk 2 Alpha, it has this bracket, and that means you can place it wherever you want, which is nice. So you kind of place that up and in. There we go, like that. Okay, then we've just got your spring clips, and we place these in the back, like so. And then we've got washers and nuts, so it's 14mm at the back, and then you obviously tighten up the 12mm at the front here. Like that one, and of course, the one there. So each of these 13mm nuts, it'd be 12mm standard, but these are Tegual ones. They're all tightened up and do it in a cross pattern, and obviously wipe off the dipstick. Place that in there like that. I'm going to place the drive shafts in, because as soon as you place the drive shafts in, you're basically done, at least on the underside. So go and grab the drive shafts. There's obviously a long one and a short one, and I'll show you both of those. The short one is obviously the drive side in the UK, so you can actually see it there, and the longer one has a carrier bearing which mounts to the back of the block. So first of all, I'm just going to quickly grab the short one and whack that. See, it's been a bit of a while, got a bit of corrosion, any surface on the discs, and I've got a cobweb here, so that's good. I've left everything fairly loose, so you can see what I've got to do. I left this traction bar just dangling, and then I'm going to undo this 14mm from the inner lower control arm. My anti-roll bar drop link is already off. I never touched the ball joints, so I kind of like to do the whole thing without touching them. And so first things first, I'll just take out that 14. There we go. Oh, it's a nice clean one. Eventually, take out this big bolt here. Bolt out here, 17mm out. You can see I'm completely loose in there now, and then I can just grab the drive shaft, place it on the inner, get it through this hole here, and get the nut on. First stage is you can place it into the spline, knock it in with the end of the drive shaft, then place this out the way, take this nut off here. So now I've put copper slip on it, it's through this hole here. I can just place the spline inside the hub. The spline's through, you see the thread showing. I've obviously copper slipped that before, so you can just do that loosely for now, and then it's just a matter of making sure you pick up your traction rod there, and then I will just place this up here, the lower control arm, and then do up the bolts lightly for the traction rod. 14mm lower control arm bolt with my finger on it there, that's tight, and then like I said, you can just thread these traction rod bolts up, and it's easier to do this before you have this bolt that goes through the lower control arm in, because you have much more room. So here I've just got a adjustable, ratchet spanner, and I can just do them up tight with this, and then just nip them up with another spanner. Now they're tight, we can simply just raise this up like so, and then place the suspension strut bolt through there, or suspension fork should we call it, through there, and also try and get the anti-roll bar drop link bolt to go through this hole here. But before you do that, you're going to want to add rubber bush things with the opposite there, and then a nut on it. It's all worked out pretty well. The nut and bolt through there, and then I've got my final bit, this anti-roll bar drop link. So that's just under there like so, and when I push it down I can get this nut on as well. Do up the 17mm and then This is a 12mm in the centre of it for the control by drop link, and that's a 13mm nut, but it might be 12 and 12 actually for the standard. And then that is basically pretty much done. We've obviously got this main hub nut to do up, but that will have to happen when it's back on the ground. You see this wants to come around to there, get torqued up and then knocked in. Similar state, everything pretty much loose. So I'm going to do exactly the same steps as before. The only difference is it's got this support bearing, and that mounts to the back of the block. So I'll place this all in, which is exactly the same, and then show you these bolts going in. In the initial setup, this is the support bearing. You're trying to get that shaft right into that transmission at the back there, and just make sure you get the support bearing face this little mount thing facing up, because that's where it's going to need to go. Not in yet, just showing you an intermediate stage. So the drive shaft splines are going in, and this needs to be facing up so it can mount to the back of the block. If you have it down, you'll have to take the drive shaft back out again. So just make sure it's up and kind of going towards where it needs to be, and then just slip this drive shaft in a bit more. You can do it just by using the plunger of the drive shaft here. Obviously, there you go. That's pretty much the whole way home. And then we can just put these carrier bearing bolts in. This is the carrier bearing. I'm going to put in these 3 shouldered bolts. I don't know if you can see them. There you go. And they're all 14s. So that's the bracket up in place, and the 3 bolts, 1, 2, and then 3. Drive shaft then is exactly the same as before, so you don't need to see me do that again. And that is pretty much the whole of the bottom of the car done. So now we move on to the top of the car, and one thing I'm going to do first is, now the drive shafts are in, you can top up the transmission fluid. So I'm going to top that up. A way of doing this, and there's a really quick way of doing this. I'm going to actually go for the quick way now. And what it is down here you've got the fill hole and then the drain. Now I've already drained it, so there's nothing in it, so I don't need to do that again. And then we have the fill here, and what we do is go to our Allen bolt selection, and let's try, yeah, it's an 8mm Allen there. So undo that with 3/8. Yeah, and then I'll just take that out, but it came out, and that leaves the hole there. I've got the drip tray below, because the car's on a pretty much level surface. Hard to see it, but it pretty much is, because it's actually sloping but the front's raised good enough. And then come up here, and then you can take the speed sensor out. I'm just going to fill up the oil into there using this big old funnel, and when it starts to come out of the fill plug, then you know you're at the right point. That long bolt that looks like that, and then this whole speed sensor, kind of unusual one really. I think it came off an SIR JDM car, so it's actually got the electronic VSS, which is kind of rare, very useful for what I'm doing, because I've got the Honda S2000 clock, so that's what you need. Anyway, see, there's a nice big hole down there now, and I can just place my fluid in there, and then wait for it to come out into the bucket. The fluid I'm using is Torco MTF, and it should be around 2 litres of it. Allen up, and you see there's some oil in there, but not a lot leaked out. I managed to quickly whack the Allen back in with the VSS with its long bolt in there too, and then just nip that up. It's only 10mm. Time to fill it up with oil. I've got this Miller's oil, and it's the mineral type, and it's 10W40. I'm just going to fill up, just you don't need me to tell you to fill up the engine oil. Top of the dipstick, but obviously when I crank the engine over, the oil filter itself has got about a Coke can worth of oil that's not in there yet, so I'll crank it over, then top it up again without actually firing. I just need to run all these hoses, so some of them are left in place, which is nice because it's incredibly easy to put them back on. So that obviously goes there, from the bottom of the radiator to the thermostat housing. I just need to tighten down that Jubilee. I've actually robbed this pipe here, which goes the whole way to the side of the block. But the good news is I've got some more. This is actually for, I think it even says on it, look, W, car heater hose. It's nice, isn't it? And that's 16mm or 5/8 inch. So I'll just run some of that, get some Jubilee clips, and tighten that up. And then the last one, so that's for this one, which has the heater control valve. And then we have this one here, which has this little pipe. This metal bit would usually be held beneath the standard inlet manifold. So this just goes here and goes to the middle. I can show you. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. The middle of that pipe, which is the connection pipe. So from the water pump to the thermostat, that metal pipe I put behind the engine there on the inlet side. So just going to get all of those done. Pipe on there, and I've just kind of measured it and put the silver Sharpie to there. I'm just going to cut through that. Taking away this whole metal pipe because it doesn't have much place to be clanging around underneath the inlet manifold because I've got a skunk too. So get rid of that. And I've got this pipe which is actually down there in the cross pipe, and again I'm just going to put it up there, mark it off and then cut it off with my snips. That's those done. Now I just need to put in the top radiator hose. This has one of those little sandwich plates which has the coolant temperature, so I'll just place that in. Okay, they're all tight. This one really isn't ideal, but it'll do a job. Then coolant and water mix goes in there. Nut these up 32mm, and that's purely because then I can put it down on the ground and just torque it properly. But I bet you that's about right. And same goes for this one. Yep. Right, now all we've really got is fuel and electrical connections. I think I'm going to go for the electrical connections first. Oh, and some vacuum hoses, some real simple stuff like that, but electrical connections first. Quickly buzz through that. The clutch cable, it's really simple to put this on. So first of all, you just place this up there, get the cable itself through the little bracket that's mounted to the gearbox, poke that down. Okay, that's in there like that, and then just get this bit, place that up there, and then just get this cable just in here like that. I'm going to need two hands to pull the lever up and then place that in there. You can just pull the cable up and just tension it by putting clockwise. Thermostat housing connection for earth. Just make sure that's nicer than that is, and just you know, sand that down and make sure it's a good connection for your earths. Right then, I've just connected all the electrical connections up, connected my two AN6 fuel connections up, put the fuel, put the air filter on, put the brake booster pipe on, and then we are pretty much good to go. Just might put this on here, which is for the oil pressure light in the car, oil pressure sensor I should say in the car. And then I've disconnected the distributor so we can get oil pressure first, and then I'll check the oil and then give it a crank. Right, battery's connected, and I've disconnected the distributor. So first one, I'm just going to see if I can get some oil pressure. Right, now just check the oil level again. Distributor connected. Right, cranking. Good oil pressure. Temperature's waiting to come up. I think it's, I can guarantee I know what it is. It'll be the distributor cap. When you leave it for a while, I had exactly the same thing before, so I'll just whip off the distributor cap, clean up those things, I bet it'll just run perfect. Top that up, it's taken most of that 5 litres now. So, battery disconnected. Around here, and we'll just take the cap off. So 8mm bolts, these ones, take off the cap, and as usual, there's, see that white powder in there? You scrape that off. But there, let's get a nice zoom in for you. This is what happens when you leave your car for a bit, it gets all that crap on it. So, just cleaned all that off, now back on. Battery back on. Let's give it another go. Keys. Right, this one. Check it's not in gear. Oil pressure's good. It's sitting for a while. Fuel's probably pretty old, but running. So now after that, it's idling as it should. So I'm just gonna, this is just steam coming off that. So I should probably just do it like that. And you can see it's all just running, so happy days.